Hey y'all, it's Palmer. Welcome to Characters and Culinary. Mama always wanted to write a book about her hometown of Cell City, Georgia. She said that everyone in town was characters or kinfolk. And I guess in some ways she was right, because it's one of the few places they actually park in the middle of the street. But I never understood the kinfolk part because, besides the folks that lived in our house, we weren't really kin to much of anybody. Anyway, that's where I grew up and spent a lot of time in the kitchen with her and my nana and my nanny and everyone else. And so this is my show where I'm going to bring her idea along with some ideas of my own to you, introducing you to some of the characters in my life. I'll probably introduce you to some of my kinfolk too, but just the ones I like. I inherited my talking and storytelling from Dicey K, but in these episodes I'll try my best to listen and let you hear what makes the people in my life special. Mama always kept a house full of children and neighbors. There's no doubt her cooking among the top reasons she kept folks coming back. She made homemade biscuits almost every meal, and she never refrigerated the sweet tea. I'll probably never be as good as a cook as she was, but it's in the kitchen where I think of her the most. Welcome to Characters and Culinary, the very first episode. It is Tuesday, January 19th. I am talking to my friend Kim Godby today. She is a certified Francophile. She is a mother of three. She is a flight attendant, and she packs quite a bit into her 5 foot nothing frame. In fact, she might not even be 5 foot. But she's my friend and I love her, and I want you to know why I think she is pretty spectacular. So sit a spell. Let's share this story over the stove.
Hey, dum-dum.
Hello, my friend.
What you doing?
Well, I am embarking on what I hope to be a really cool project.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah.
Too bad you don't know anybody famous to start with.
Well, not only that, but even the people that aren't famous that I know, I mean, I couldn't find anyone else, so it's you.
Then I foresee you not going places. Well, it'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. What's in the microwave?
Because I'm such a gourmet. This is such an old lady thing. I was warming up my coffee.
Actually, I think I'll do the same.
I know, I do that. I'll drink anything.
Okay. All right, I'm ready. You ready?
Yes, the way I was sitting was not good because I don't have blinds in my living room, and so it was too bright. Yours looks good though.
Well, I cheated. I have lighting, so.
Oh, I don't have lighting.
That's all right. Whenever we're able to do this in person, I can put the lighting on you. So, welcome everyone. This is the very first episode of what I hope to be many of Characters in Culinary. I'm talking to my friend Kim Godby. Hello, Kim.
Hello.
You are joining me from your kitchen in Noblesville, Indiana. How's the morning?
I am. It's cold, and I've been off work for 6 weeks, so I'm depressed because I'm going to be leaving my kitchen very soon. And it's been a nice time off, and I've been cooking a lot and doing a lot of things with my animals. So not really excited to go back to work, but it's okay. Once I get there, it'll be all right. Good. And I'll get some new food and other places, so that's always fun too.
You're a part of my COVID baby. You're my first guest on this. Did you have any babies, COVID babies, during the last year that we've all been locked up and all that drama?
Well, I was one of those typical learn to make sourdough bread people.
Not banana bread. It was sourdough bread.
Oh, I'm making some good bread because I usually fly to Paris, and of course the bread capital of the world, and I'm missing it desperately. And one of my best friends is a very gifted pastry chef, and so he guided me into my starter. And so I did that probably in April or May. And I love to cook, but I don't love to bake. And so I was intimidated because I had a stupid bread maker in the 90s that was a disaster. I don't even want to talk about that.
I'm the same way.
Bread maker.
I love to cook because you can like adjust as you go, or you can just throw a whatever in a pan and it's
but
good.
Not with bread.
No, it's like hurry up and wait, and if you like don't do it right,
very precise.
Oh my God, I hate it. So
yeah, so I had to get a scale and do all that, but I've started enjoying it, and once you get the hang of it, I mean, I don't have a big repertoire, but my levain is perfect, and it is as good as some I've had in France. So that makes me happy because I just miss the food there so much right now.
Yeah.
So I did that. I've been writing. I always dabble in writing, but I'm not a good closer. So I've got about 3 things going. Maybe I'll finish one before I die. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about us. I want to talk about how we met. We don't have to get into it because we don't have enough time. But you and I are both very passionate people. But there's one cause, again, we don't have to go into it, but that we were passionate on opposite sides. So I want to hear from you. How did we become friends?
I don't remember really. I mean, I saw you often, and I thought you were very cheeky and young and kind of ridiculous. But and maybe I still
You're not
think
wrong
that,
about
but
that.
you're still ridiculous, but you're not young.
No, I'm not.
How about that?
I have less here.
I think the olive branch for me was when we were coming to the end of our time of working toward our causes, and it was important. Just like now, I guess that is kind of a good thing. I see he walked off, because he doesn't want to hear about this.
No, I'm listening. I'm getting more coffee.
I think it is important.
More coffee.
Yeah, you've got to work together, and we worked for the same company, and I didn't know what else to do. I mean, my side lost, and I had to move forward. So instead of storming our corporate headquarters
and sitting in Ed's chair, or I guess Richard's at that point,
I decided that I needed to assimilate, not saying, okay, I don't believe in my cause anymore, but that wasn't an option at that point. So we had to all work together, and we needed to do it in as amiable a fashion as we can, because our lives depend on each other.
Yes,
literally. It's not just, and that's true. I mean, that's not being dramatic. I might have to save your life or vice versa. And we need to get along. I mean, it doesn't mean I wasn't still working toward getting what I wanted that I never have gotten. And that's just how it is. Yep. And so put your big boy pants on and move forward. And so that's what we did. And I think it was important to get along.
Yeah, I think that that's a good thing. Although I do have to share with the folks that are watching that apparently I called you an alien, which really upset you.
Well, when I look back at the picture, I did kind of look like Spock in that picture. But yes, you also called me toxic once too. And
I wrote a whole essay. I wrote a whole essay about you being toxic.
Yes.
I think I still have that somewhere.
Yeah. And I probably, at that point, I was just starting this venture, and I was probably a lot bolder and more brazen about saying things without thinking of consequences than I would be now. But I'm a lot older now, and I do try to be thoughtful about how I present myself. That
literally was 13 years ago.
I know, it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
But, and I let that take over my life, which wasn't smart. And you can have a cause, but it can't come before other things that are also important. And getting back to being in recovery, I ended up relapsing, and I ended up back in treatment and putting myself first after that. So I was very thankful. I'm very grateful, and I was very lucky.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen that way for everyone. I mean, one relapse and you're dead.
Yeah.
And that's reality. So I'm very grateful that I was able to get through that period. It was a stormy period.
I'm going to do 10 lightning round questions. I think most are like one-word answers, but we'll see how you do. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1, text or phone call?
Text.
Your nickname?
Kimmy.
Kimmy.
Or number 1. Actually, number 1, but that's only from one person.
Is that Chuck?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Would you rather speak French or be able to communicate with dogs?
Ooh. It's not lightning. They're equal. I guess
I knew that one was going to get you.
Dogs.
Dogs? Okay. Can a vegetarian eat animal crackers?
If they don't have lard in them.
You thought about that way too much. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Name one of the 7 dwarfs and not yourself.
Sneezy.
Sneezy. Say good day, mate, in Australian accent.
Good eye, mate.
Are you politically correct?
Sort of. That's
See,
not a very good
I
answer.
had a different response in my mind that you would give.
No.
Yes, that's what I expected.
Trying
What
to
is
be politically correct.
I didn't say you had to be politically correct. I was asking. What's your favorite muffin?
Oh, I can't ever think. The whole grain ones. The ones that are really dry, I like
That's
them.
boring.
I know. I like them.
All right, final one. What sound does a seal make?
I don't think that's right. That was more like the end of a bad lightning round. Womp womp.
Well, you said it, I didn't. But who is the most famous person you've flown for 36 years, I think you said?
Hmm?
Yeah. So,
yes. Thank you for pointing that out. That's all right.
That's okay. I mean, you started when
it's good.
We determined that you started the year I graduated kindergarten.
Yes, that's neat.
Who is the most famous person that you have had as a customer?
Well, I'm not sure which one is more. Dolly Parton's probably more famous, but I also had Barbara Bush.
Did you really have Dolly?
Yes, and I loved her.
Every gay on this just shrieked.
It was years and years and years and years ago. It was in the 80s. Yeah. And I was flying from LA to Nashville. Or no, Memphis. We would have been going to Memphis. And so she was on the plane. That's what it was. See, I've been flying 36 years. I can't remember things. The plane had come from LA. Mm-hmm. And somehow, because back then, I guess we didn't care about FARs, they left her on board alone. So I didn't know anybody was on the plane. And so I got on board and I thought no one was on the plane, and it was a 727. So it had a wall and you couldn't see the seats until you walked around the corner. So I came around the corner, plopped my tote bag down and pulled my skirt up and was down on all fours, kind of sifting through it because I couldn't find my key that we carry. So I was talking to myself. So I'm saying, where's that damn key? And so she's at 1A. And then she said, well, hey there. So I almost died. And then they started cleaning the plane.
Was her hair and makeup all done like she is usually?
Yeah.
Oh,
she
really?
Looked just like her. Yeah, beautiful.
Okay.
And very little, very, very tiny.
I've always wondered if I saw her in the wild, if she would be
She'd have a wig on.
Because she's kind of a character, right?
She is a character, but
Yeah.
she did something that she endeared me to her for the rest of my life. They were cleaning the plane. We were in Memphis.
Mhm.
So she was sitting there quietly. So a cleaner came up and he sat down beside her and he said, I write songs. You know, how often does she hear this?
Right.
And so he was giving her this spiel, and she looked him straight in the eye and listened to everything he had to say. And then she actually wrote down an address and she said, well, send your tape here, darling. You know, that's how I got my start and I'll listen to it. And I thought that was magnanimous and incredible, because I've seen other people on the plane not behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have expected, she must hear that a million times a day. So I loved that. She was so kind to him, and she treated him with the respect that
Everyone deserves.
He deserved it, to be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I liked that a lot.
I would ask for your favorite destination, but I already know it. You're a Francophile.
That would be Paris, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, I love Paris.
Why?
I don't know. I've been enamored with it since I can remember. When I was young, my cousins were 10 and 12 years older than me. And one of my cousins studied abroad and he traveled a lot. And that was in the 70s. So that was when he took a lot of pictures and made slideshows. This was a long time ago. And he would send them back to my grandparents' farm and we would watch them. And I remember I wanted to go there. I just wanted to go there. And so as I got older and started seeing more things about Paris, it just caught my heart. And I knew I had to get there somehow. And the fact that I've been afforded the opportunity to not go there once or twice and save half my life to have this 2-week adventure and get to know it intimately has been one of the treasures of my life. But the first time I went was July of 1990, and I'll never forget it, because the second we touched down, it was like ground zero. Inside, my whole body felt calm. I felt a sense of relief, and I literally said out mouthed, I'm home. And I felt that way ever since. I love it. I love everything about it. It's not always an easy city. And I've never been able to master the language. I can say a lot of words. I can string things together. But yeah, you know, that dog question, because I need to talk to my dog. But other than that, I've tried and tried and tried. But I love everything about it. I try so hard to say things right, but I just give up. I'm older now, so I don't care as much. I used to want to blend in more than anything, and I didn't want anybody to know I wasn't French. Mm-hmm. And so I could look okay as long as I didn't open my mouth. So now I just do it. And if they don't understand me, most of them speak English, so I just say it. And if I get an eye roll occasionally, I don't care.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I'm doing a lot of turns now to the Caribbean and Mexico and Spanish speaking places. And I am attempting to learn and teach myself a little bit of Spanish. But one of the biggest crutches that I have to learn is that as a Southerner, my accent's funny to a lot of people. But when I hear myself speaking Spanish, it is funny to me. And it's almost unnerving a little bit. It's really weird. Like when I have friends who are fluent in different languages and stuff. And when they speak those languages, I'm like, okay, well, they could be French, or they could be Mexican, or they could be whatever. But when I hear myself saying Mexican words, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, talking Taco Bell to a Mexican president.
Well, I'll think that I'm saying it properly and they just can't understand me. And then I think I'm saying it right. But then I'll hear people speaking English with a very heavy French accent, and they're speaking it correctly, but I can't understand them because it's heavily accented. So I've started understanding, okay, I am saying it right, but I didn't learn it when I was 8 or 10. And so what I'm thinking is a good accent is not to them. And some people can understand it. So it's very interesting.
Yep.
I thought I would learn. That was one thing I thought I would learn during COVID. I was trying so hard, but didn't happen.
Yeah, me neither. Tiger King happened during COVID, so I was watching that instead of learning a language. Hey, let's talk about something very sweet in your life. You were married to your son's father, but there was someone that was important to you that came back into your life.
We'd been divorced about 10 years, and I got this phone call out of the blue, and it was very, very odd. It was my high school sweetheart, and he had gotten my phone number from one of my father's best friends who had gone into his shop, and we reconnected. It was kind of unbelievable. We dated just for a couple of years. I was in high school and he was in college, and both moved on, had children, had lives. And then 30 years later, we got married. So that was fun. That was different. But I told him, I said, well, you know, if you're only going to get one half of the game, the second half is usually more fun. So
that's true. Unless you're a Falcons fan.
Well, we're Packers fans here, so we've still got a shot.
I want to ask you a question after I kind of introduce what we're talking about, but you are an open alcoholic. You are someone who is in recovery, as you've talked about. You are someone who counsels people, refers people to help. But one of the questions I have, I was talking to someone recently about this. When I talk about you, I often say that you're an alcoholic because that's what you tell me you are. And that's what other alcoholics tell me you are. But in my mind, when I say alcoholic, I think of someone who is the person that I kicked out of the bar after last call, who continues to drink. But you're sober, but you're still an alcoholic. So tell us how that's the right thing to call you.
Well, if I was diabetic, you would say Kim's diabetic. It's a disease. So I have the disease of alcoholism. And that's, I tested it many times to see if that was true, much like somebody that might be in denial about another disease might do the same thing until you come to terms with it. And once I really understood it was a disease, that helped me turn a corner. I mean, I kept thinking I understood or had understanding of the disease concept, but I didn't put it all together. And I also, here's the other thing that I think is important. Many people that suffer from diseases surrounding addiction also might have a dual diagnosis, a secondary diagnosis. And I had been actually diagnosed with depression many years ago. And so there's still so much work to do to understand. It's kind of like chicken and egg theory of which one, or is it both, or does it matter? And I don't know the answer to that. But for me, even though it's counterintuitive to use a depressant for depression, it changes the mindset of somebody that's not comfortable in his or her own skin, at least in my case. And so I think that was a component of my own disease. And we were finding that out with my son, Eric. And we hadn't really gotten the time to explore that as it was just surfacing when he died. But the reality is, it's not you're just a bad person that drinks a bottle of liquor. There's something behind it. So, but I felt that way. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just a bad, wrong human. And an alcoholic is an older guy under a bridge with a bag. And I was a suburban middle class housewife with 3 kids and a flight attendant. And I didn't feel like I fit that profile. And so I felt like I was the only person on earth like that, which makes it harder
Yeah,
because it's not true.
I remember a play that I did in high school. I was actually the moderator. And so the gist of the play was, as the moderator, or I was actually giving a speech, or the character was giving a speech, and it was about alcoholism. And so characters were planted within the audience, and you were talking about the different types of alcoholics. And so it was the functioning alcoholic, it was the sot drunk, and it was all this kind of stuff. And it became comical towards the end because it got from the suburban housewife that was going to her cotillion events and having wine, or the social alcoholic, the man who was on the golf course and drinking beer with his buddies, down to the hot drunk, and they all believed that they were not an alcoholic. And so the last line of the play is like, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? I messed that up, but anyway, will the real alcoholic please stand up? And all of them, I think there were 7 types, all of them stood up because they're all alcoholics. But so moving on from that, or building on to that, when I talked to you yesterday about doing this, we talked about your son, Eric, and you got emotional about it. You are someone who has dealt with addiction and at least now continue to be sober. Eric wasn't successful. So tell me about him and about your motherhood to him. Like, just talk about Eric to us.
Well, yes, I've been on all sides of it. So I have an understanding that I wish I didn't have. And yeah, he started exhibiting signs that there was going to be trouble when he was probably 14 or 15. I don't remember. And we had caught him using marijuana and then drinking. I mean, typical things that a parent might start to see that you're going to have a downward spiral. And we had gotten divorced, and that makes everything harder. It just does. We worked together as best we could, but it's still harder. And I still, I know at that time it was so hard on him when we got divorced, and he was about 12. And I still know, I think for both of us, it was the right decision, but I feel guilty quite often about it when I try not to. That's part of recovery, but I'm a human. So the regrets, when you go back and think of them, aren't productive, but I have a human mind, so I can't always control that. But anyway, so he went down this path, and I won't go into everything, but he went all the way down to heroin by the time he was 18. And we had been in numerous types of situations for him to go in and get counseling and help, etc. And he ended up in treatment at 18 and then again at 20. And when he was 20, he went down to Cornerstone of Recovery, which is in Knoxville, around the Knoxville area, which is also where I went a couple of times. I've gone through that program.
If it's worth, you don't succeed.
But anyway, while he was there, he started every single time you get any information, whether like he wasn't ready for it at 15, 16, 18, it's the bricks, the foundation that you're building. Even if you reach out once, like I went to an AA meeting once and then never went again for like 3 years, but that was something. So all of it's good. It's all good. This is just a lifelong process. It's not, you go in, you get cured and you come out. It's a process. It's a lifestyle. So you're continually building that. The sad part is along the way, if you do relapse, you may or may not get a second chance. We always cooked. Our house, big cooks. My grandmother was unbelievable. Mom was a great cook. I'm a good cook. I used to cater. I taught my boys to cook because they needed to know how. Eric was really, really good at it, but he loved music. And I was trying to get him to be passionate about something else, something to get his mind going a different direction. I said, you should be a chef. And I'll never forget it because he said, that's your thing. I want to do something creative, which still makes me laugh. And it made him laugh later because what's more creative than cooking? So I kept my mouth shut. But then some years later, when after treatment, he stayed down there to stay connected. And he got a job with the man whose feet I still would kiss given the chance. His name is Rick Mace. And he was an executive chef at a place called RT Lodge in Maryville, Tennessee. And he worked there after he'd worked at a couple of kind of crummy places. And Rick Mace had worked for Daniel Boulud when he had the brasserie in Vegas. And Eric developed this passion for cooking. And Rick Mace saw it, saw his talent. He had genius, and he honed it, cultivated it, and became his mentor. So that's how he got into cooking. And Rick also helped him get the tryout in New York City at a Daniel Boulud restaurant where he did get a job there. And so Rick was just always really special to Eric and kind of a father figure to him, along with being a mentor. He just really respected him. So that's how he got into cooking. Kitchens, double-edged sword, haha, of cooking. Kitchens are rough. There's a lot of addiction in kitchens. It's rampant, and that breaks my heart too.
Because, before my career, I bartended, waited tables, did pretty much everything. But that's the other thing. We have a very solitary job. We have 200 customers and we have a crew of 10, but then when we get to our hotels, we are behind a door by ourselves. And same thing with, perfect segue from you, the restaurant industry, the same. You're with 10 or 12 people or more, depending on the size of the restaurant, and you do this great food and provide a great experience for these people, and then you go home to four walls.
Yeah, there's a lot of drugs in the kitchen too. I mean, it's easily accessible, and that's a big problem. I used to carry around programs from Eric's homecoming we had, and I would just give them out to the staff and say, look, this happened to my son, and just put it up in the kitchen. If somebody needs help, they need to reach out. Because here's my other way of thinking. Like, when you asked me to do this, I thought, I don't know. And it just, I don't love things like this, but anytime I can say Eric Evasic, anytime I can say Eric was here, Eric made a difference, Eric's goal was to be clean. Eric's goal was, he had been in jail. He saw the disparity. He was treated deplorably, but it was better than Black guys in jail and brown guys in jail. And he saw it clearly, and this was some years ago. And he said, they don't have a chance. And he wanted to start a restaurant, employ people coming out of the penal system. So he was the most giving person I've ever met. If you want to look to science, energy doesn't die. So we are a ball of energy. So when the body falls off, you're still left. So your essence is still around. So I think you can promote science with religion, saying, if you believe that, you have faith. And I do believe that. And I see him, and I see him all over the place. So I'm all I am right now for the rest of my life, because for whatever reason I was left behind, and I wish I wasn't. I wish we'd gone in the normal order. I'm here to speak for him, to say, stop using, get help. You can have fun. You can feel okay without using. It is possible. And I never thought I could feel okay without using. So I do all of this in his name, just because I don't know what else to do. If I didn't do this, I would probably want to lay down and die. And I don't, because I am still here. I have 2 other boys, and I have a lot of people that love me. So I don't want to go that route. I understand people that do. And I wish also for any moms and dads that have lost a child, figure out a way to just say their name and keep them moving forward. And that will keep you moving forward, because it's hard. It's the hardest. It's harder than anything that's ever happened to me. It really is. And I don't know of anything that could be worse than losing your child. It's hard. But I hear from him. It's just hard when you want to have him speak back. I go places with him, and places that we see together, I spread his ashes. So he's in a lot of different places. And then I also keep up here, if you can see my jar. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yep.
He overlooks my kitchen.
Awesome. And don't you have his chef coat in there as well?
I do. It's behind pots and pans now, but I keep it back there along. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
And I've got his knife bag down there. And so when I'm cooking, he's in the kitchen with me, and it means a lot. My favorite cousin, the one that I spoke about traveling to Europe, he had sent me some money after Eric died and said, I just want you to get something for you tangible. And so I had come up with, I bought these from my cousin David, so that whenever, I use my salt and pepper every single time I'm in the kitchen.
Right.
So those represent him. So he's represented well in my kitchen and is with me all the time.
So that, I think that's awesome. I am not a parent. I always wanted to be a parent, and maybe one day, but I have plenty of nieces and nephews, biological and otherwise. But you talked about Eric's legacy and if people have lost someone, but 2 charities that you find dear. And I think that the people watching this, that if they're going through things that you went through, or Eric, as we talked yesterday, our job often is you get to a foreign destination, and especially now with like COVID restrictions, you can't leave the room, right?
Right.
And so that is something that's reality for us in our career, but it's become reality the past year with the COVID for everyone. Some places more than others, but especially those of us here in New York, the city was shut down completely, and now might as well continue to be shut down. But I have a roommate, he happens to be gone now, but you spend a lot of time alone. And sometimes that's when, I know you shared your personal story with me, that was when you would drink maybe the most. Yes. Or a lot.
I was a very closeted drinker. That's why a lot of people were very surprised when I went to treatment in 2002, because some people are out there, they are seen drinking all the time. So it's not shocking to people when they find out they have a problem. Mm-hmm. But I tried to hide it because I was so shame-based, and I didn't want anyone to know. So I think that goes on so often, even under normal circumstances in our industry. And right now I would assume it's rampant, and it breaks my heart. But the one good thing that has happened during the pandemic, if anybody does want help, sometimes it's really hard for people to walk into an AA meeting. That first time walking in is really hard. Well, there are, I don't know how many thousands of Zoom 12-step meetings going on right now. I mean, that's the new norm for now. Mm-hmm. And so if anybody is struggling, it's a good place to go. I mean, look online and you can find so many meetings. I found a really good one. I live in Indiana, and it's called Hollywood and Gardner, and it's in West Hollywood. You know, it's in California. So that's
You can
that's
kind of
something.
you can kind
What?
of travel virtually.
Yeah, and you don't have to leave your house, and it doesn't replace that, because we have to, contact and communication is vital.
Yeah.
So, and I hate that part of COVID, but that's something anyone can do. And all you need is a desire to stop drinking. So I would highly encourage, if anyone's listening that feels like they don't know what to do, but they want to do something. I never thought I could stop drinking. I honestly believed, I knew I was an alcoholic, but I thought I won't be able to stop this. I won't be able to, because I was very physically addicted, and I thought there was no way. And I was wrong. I'm going on 8 years without a drink, and I never thought that was possible. I have 8 years of continued sobriety, but my journey started almost 20 years ago. So it's really hard to relapse. Addiction wants you to do this. Addiction is nothing but, I just think of it as some awful guy on my shoulder that wants me dead. And he doesn't need sleep. He doesn't need food. He doesn't need anything. He is always, he's vigilant. He's ready. He's ready to take me down. And what I have to do is, he's talking in my ear all the time, and I have to keep the volume on 0. And I managed to do that by this. Like right now, I'm helping me by helping others, or talking about it. Just talk, do whatever you can, but stay connected and communicating. Secrets keep us sick, is what they say in the program, and it's true. Now, in Eric's case, his relapse happened. He went to the dentist and he was given OxyContin. He knew not to take that. It was going to lead him straight down that path. Secret. He didn't tell anyone, and he took it, because that guy he got the volume up to 1, and he got in his head, and he managed to say to him, nobody will know that. You can do it once. And he did it. In a month, he was dead of a heroin overdose. So that's what addiction does. And it also, if you start questioning, I can't do this, it's going to turn the volume up, and he's going to go, no, you cannot do that. And you can. Just whether you go to AA or not, live one day at a time. You only have to not do whatever it is. And maybe it's not even alcohol. Maybe it's eating. I don't know what anybody's thing is. One day at a time works. If I try to think about a month from now, then I've got a lot in my head. And I should do that in all aspects of my life, but I find it impossible. I mean, that's a goal, but it's not been attainable for me. But for the drinking, I can do that. And I had a time in my life where it was, 1 minute at a time. I struggled. And that's when I should have and didn't always reach out to someone. That breaks the spell. For whatever reason, when you share, he goes back into hiding, at least for that moment. And that's what we have to have. So you need an army. I've never found that I've been able to do it when I'm an island by myself. I've always relapsed. I've never been successful.
For this episode, we talked about things that were important to Eric, because Eric was a chef. So biscuits, and is it chipped gravy that you said?
Yeah, it's chipped beef gravy. It's very funny to me it's always my first thought that comes up for him, and it's very poignant, and it's impossibly sweet, because it's like the lowest form of food probably to any foodie.
Well, I didn't even know what
You didn't know what it was.
No.
And
no. I mean, I know it by its other name.
He grew up with it, because I grew up with it.
Right.
And I know it's because the beef is Well, we'll just say it's disgusting. I don't know what else to call it. It's in a little.
I looked on Amazon and they were like, it looks like jars of pepperoni.
No, that's not it. You found the wrong thing. There's a brand, Buddig, Buddig, and
Right, yeah, I know that brand.
It's in a little plastic container like lunch meat, and it's probably, they sell it in these really weird small sizes of maybe 2 to 4 ounces, and it's just called either pressed beef or chopped beef. God knows what's in it. However, it's what you use to make chipped beef gravy. And my grandma made it and my mom made it. So I made it. We didn't grow up eating sausage gravy. I mean, that's what my husband, he doesn't like this. And so it's the exact same ingredients, but instead of adding sausage, sausage I add at the beginning, but the chipped beef, I cut it with scissors too. It's almost absurd, but you add it at the end. So
it sounds like jerky or something, maybe.
No, it's kind of a lunch meat texture, only really thin.
Maybe you buy some and you ship it to me or put it on a flight.
Yeah, sure. I bet you can find it there maybe at 7-Eleven. I don't know.
We don't have 7-Elevens. We have bodegas.
Okay, well, look for it there. But
no, I'm joking. But
anyway, he always loved that, which is funny because he had an excellent palate and he would always have such queries about it. Well, mine never tastes like yours. And I mean, it just cracks me up because this guy was making all this stuff that you can't even imagine.
Well, you sent this recipe for biscuits and it's like for 40 people.
Right, because it was the restaurant recipe, but he would send me these monstrous recipes and I would try to break it down. Some worked and some didn't.
When I cook this to include in the show, I'm gonna use his recipe because I use my mom's, which is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and there's 0 measurement. So it's interesting. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see how I do following a recipe.
See if they're different. Yeah.
The other thing you mentioned that your grandmother cooked this recipe, but the other recipe that you shared that was important to your family and Eric is red velvet cake from your grandma or his grandma Estelle.
Estelle Bishop. And everybody would always say, is it Estelle? And it's like, no, Estle. I've never heard the name before or since.
And when I was a reporter, the first thing we would do is we would say, will you would you pronounce and spell your first and last name for that reason? Because it's important your name is important. Like, don't call me Matt. I'm like, hey, I'm Matthew. And they're like, oh, nice to meet you, Matt. No. So names are important, but the pronunciation is as well. Like the chipped beef I didn't know about, although my aunt is a great baker and my mom was a great cook, I've never heard of boiled frosting.
Yeah, it's really old school. I mean, that's going way back. It was my grandma's and it's very different. I mean, it tastes pretty much like a buttercream when you do it right. And
which you didn't do, you said
when you do it wrong, it's like an oil slick. I don't even know. Yeah, the first time I made it was for Eric's first birthday. And
I thought you were on a date.
No, it was for his first birthday.
Oh.
It was his birthday cake. So I made it. I actually got a picture of it. It was back. I mean, that was 1988.
Can you share the photo?
And I can't find it. I've got to find it because it's hilarious. I had a camera right then and there, I don't know, because this was well before cell phones. But
was it like the 110?
It was sliding off. I don't even know what it was, but the top layer fell and crashed into a million pieces all over the floor. So I had to remake it. And I hadn't been, usually if I make 2 layers, you cut it into 4. And I hadn't done that. So it was this big monstrous, just a piece of whole cake.
Does a 1-year-old really care though?
What?
I said, does a 1-year-old really care what the cake looks like?
Well, I cared because I was having a party the next day and I didn't want a single layer cake. So I remade it and it worked out, but it's a very interesting frosting and I don't know the origins of it, but yeah, you just sort of make a paste first and let that cool and then you add that.
Yeah, it's good though. It's with self-rising flour, milk, sugar, butter, and vanilla. So kind of seems like it. And then the cake itself, red velvet cake seems like what I would
It's
be.
pretty traditional one. I mean, it's a pretty standard, the recipe she used. I just love them. She always made them on my birthday. We got to choose what cake we wanted. My grandma was such a good baker. She could make anything. And I loved her red velvet cake. But she always made it with that frosting. So when I was an adult, and especially going down south, I would see them with the cream cheese frosting, and I can't stand it. I won't even touch it. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Cream cheese frosting?
Don't like it. And I
Oh
love
my
cream
God.
cheese.
So this interview is over.
Is
No.
it the cream cheese frosting comment?
Yes. Out of all the things we've argued about, you've been very forward and raw, and I think that the people that are watching will find you as incredible as I do. But I want you to talk briefly about Cornerstone and Ben's Ranch.
Cornerstone is the actual treatment center.
Right.
And that we both went to. And it's usually 30 days. And then they also have, after that, you can stay for other care if they find it necessary and you decide that's the right route. So I think highly of it. For airline people, they have an actual airline division, which because our circumstances are, we have different challenges. They kind of tailor it to different lifestyles, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think highly of that place, and they do accept donations. But if you're struggling and you want more information, if you go on their site, you can get all kinds of information, and that's very important.
Their site is cornerstoneofrecovery.com. And I think it's important to also mention, in addition to them having the airline division, that at least with our company, our insurance covers that cost.
Yes,
so nothing
if you use Delta Insurance, it does cover that, and that's quite a nice perk to have for us. The other one is has been founded by a childhood friend of mine who lost his son, and it deals with teenagers going out into nature, and it's a mental health charity.
Ben's Ranch Foundation is the name.
Yes, and they kids that are dealing with a myriad of struggles will go out, and they help on ranches and different places where a lot of animals, a lot of nature, and it's more of I think they call it intern program, but they get paid. And so it's teaching them some other things along with the therapies and different things they might be going through, because mental health is such a crisis and problem, and suicide. And like I say, self-medicating becomes part of that process. So it's a really good foundation. And like I say, Bruce McVeigh is my friend that founded that after he lost his son. And it's still, we've known each other since kindergarten. I mean, we graduated together, lost touch over the ways, and reconnected, later in life. But it's interesting to me when I look back at a kindergarten photo to see the two of us just so tiny and young, that we would go down this similar path and have this pain. And we're not the only two in my class that have lost children. So I think it's really important for people with teenagers to study and look and see what's going on, and see what's out there. And that's, their website's got a lot of information. Just if you're even thinking about anything, it's a good website to look at.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you. Being the Southerner that I am, some of the fondest memories I have are around the stove, out with the guys grilling, fish fries, all that kind of stuff. So I thank you for coming into Characters in Culinary with me and sharing your story, especially Eric's struggles and his legacy. I think that your strength and your devotion to being well yourself will influence a lot of other people to take care of themselves too.
Well, it always helps me. So I appreciate the offer, and thanks for letting me talk. It was nice seeing you. Maybe one of these days we'll actually see each other in person again.
Yes, yes. The goal is for these things to happen live. Well, not live, but at
So you
least.
can cook together.
Yes, absolutely.
That
Because
would be fun.
yeah, but now at least you know how to operate Zoom, so that worked
I
out
did
for
do that, so that's a real victory for today. I'm gonna go on this high for the rest of the day.
you. Well, if this is a highlight of your day,
I'm not doing it very well, am I?
I didn't say it.
Thanks,
Well,
Palmer.
thank
Good
you so
seeing
much.
you.
I appreciate you, Kim. Congratulations on everything that you are. I value you as a friend.
Thanks. Back at you. Talk soon.
All right, goodbye.
Bye. All right. Is that over?
Yes. Press end.
Hello. All right. Well, that was fun.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye.